Greetings, Quester, and welcome to the Meddlesome Meeples. Grab an ale, sheathe your axe, and join us fireside. Here's your host, Matt Williams, with Richard and Heather.
Hello, and welcome to episode 11 of the Meddlesome Meeples. I'm Richard.
I'm Matt.
I'm Heather.
So, Richard, what games are we going to be talking about this episode?
We are going to be talking about two card games. One of them is called Robin. The other one is The Blood of an Englishman.
Ah, The Blood of an Englishman.
Yeah.
Fee, fi, fo, fum!
I'm glad you did that again.
It's just what I do. It just happens to be relevant this time.
We've had several outtakes so far, with mostly Matt saying fee, fi, fo, fum, so I'm glad he's never going to stop doing it.
Yeah. I just like to think, maybe it's a new habit that I can develop.
It could be a catchphrase.
Every now and then it might actually be relevant, like this time.
Yeah, it might be.
All those years I've been going around saying fee, fi, fo, fum pointlessly.
And then you found that game that we did review, so yeah.
Flashback to childhood. My dad used to do that.
Did he? Oh, no.
If we're trying to get ready to go somewhere and weren't getting ready in time, he would come looking for us. It's a dad thing.
And you were climbing a beanstalk or something.
Yeah.
Okay, we've also, Heather and I will be doing the Bart's Corner as usual. This time we're going to be talking mainly about new releases from Quiet Riot, Kryptonite and Empire, which is technically a reissue, but still a new release.
Mm-hmm.
As well as that, we've got Tiny Meeples' Big Talk.
Yeah.
And this time, it is a terrifying subject.
Mm-hmm.
Is it not?
Yes, yeah, it's about Alien this time. And who would be the most terrifying person to be the host for an Alien? We call them, Facehugger, Chestburster. It's all one kind of thing, isn't it?
Well, it's the host for the Facehugger, but then it becomes the Chestburster.
Yeah.
So that's going to be something that we can get our teeth into.
Not ours.
Did you see what I did there?
Yeah, I did.
They don't use teeth for Facehugger.
Well, but the xenomorphs have some pretty nasty teeth, don't
So
they?
it's
they
difficult to
have two
know
mouths.
which type. Yeah.
Yeah. So we're going to be doing that. Also, we're going to be doing Tome Talk.
Mm-hmm.
And this time, I'm going to be reviewing one of my recent reads and also one of my favourite novellas, Shadow Over Innsmouth by H.P. Lovecraft. Because, there's just not enough Cthulhu in our episodes.
No. If we're not doing a Cthulhu game, we've got to talk about something else Cthulhu.
Yeah. Or have, something here while we record it.
Mm-hmm.
It gets a bit weird in here sometimes. So, that's what we've got to look forward to on this week's episode. Let's get on with the show.
Mm-hmm.
Fee, fi, fo, fum. I smell the blood of an Englishman.
Blood of an Englishman. And if that had happened during the game, the giant would have won.
Yes.
Because by saying fee, fi, fo, fum, well, not saying it, but spelling it out with cards, is how you win as the giant character in this game.
Now, I will say the first thing that attracted me to this game, both when I saw it on a stall at the expo and when I first heard that it was coming out, was its amazing bit of cover art.
Yeah, that does like a very scary giant.
And a very tiny Jack.
Which is what you want from that, really.
It's what you want in a picture of
and
the giant and Jack and the Beanstalk.
Mm.
But I love the artwork on the box. That was the first thing that drew me to it. So we picked this up. It's a 2-player game. It's a very rapid 2-player game, isn't it?
Yeah, it was a lot faster than I thought it was going to be.
Basically, what you've got with this game, you've got a couple of little guides for the players to remind you what your options are, how you play your particular side. Because both Jack and the Giant play very asymmetrically, don't they? They're very different options.
Yeah.
And then you take the remaining cards, which are the Beanstalk cards and Treasure cards, and you shuffle them, and they go into 5 stacks of 10 each.
Yeah.
And essentially, the Jack is trying to steal the treasures. Now, there's 2 copies of each treasure, the goose, the harp, and the gold, mixed into those stacks. He is trying to get a sequential set of 6 Beanstalk cards. And they don't have to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, do they? It could be 1, 3, 5, 6, 7, 8.
They've got numbers 1 to 9 on them.
Yeah.
And you just need to have 6. So
you start with a low number and you go up.
Yeah, you don't want to start with 5. I
mean,
mean,
you're making your life very difficult for yourself. So you've got to get them in the right sequence. At the top of that sequence, you have to have a treasure card.
Mm-hmm.
As I say, there's 6 in there out of the
Yeah.
50 cards. Now, as well as that, that's how Jack will win. He needs to have 3 different treasures. So he's got to get the goose at the top of a beanstalk, the harp at the top of a beanstalk, and the gold at the top of a beanstalk. For the giant wins differently. He has got to get the fee, fi, fo, fum cards into an order. Now, he can win by having them horizontally on the stacks. He doesn't actually draw them for himself, unlike Jack and when his beanstalks. He's got to have them in the stacks, either at the front of 4 different stacks, so fee, fi, fo, fum, or in any combination of that, so fum, fee, fo, fi.
This is how I nearly got you to win, wasn't it?
Yeah, they don't have to be in the right fee, fi, fo, fum order. As long as those 4 cards are at the front of a stack.
They can be across the front of the stack, or they can be in a stack but all together.
They can
that
be
was
in a
that was
vertical
the one I
stack.
didn't know.
Yeah, and they don't have to be at the front of a stack to do that, unlike the horizontal way of winning.
Yeah.
They could be in the middle of a stack as long as they are in an unbroken line.
Yeah, and you could just be discarding beanstalk cards from in between them and getting yourself to win that way.
Yeah, because the giant has 3 options that he can do on his turn. He can move exactly 4 front cards from the front of one stack to another stack.
Yeah.
He can move 2 cards individually, front stack to front stack.
Mm-hmm.
Or he can discard any single beanstalk card anywhere in the castle stacks.
Is it only one?
Only 1 if I discard.
Right, okay.
Whereas Jack also has options, very different. He can do 3 things every turn. But he can move a card from the front of a stack to the front of a stack, from the back of a stack to a front of a stack, from a front of a stack to the beanstalk, or from the back to a beanstalk. So, but he can't move front to back.
Apart from on the very first move, Jack gets like a 3 move, and he can do it then. That's what I remember from the thing.
And Jack always takes the first turn, doesn't he?
Yeah. Now, this is what is so. What you just described, it might be difficult for people to really visualize, but the main thing is that each time the giant gets a turn, he gets to do one pretty big thing.
Yeah, unless he moves the 2 cards separately, but the other 2 things...
That's still pretty big. That's That's 2 cards from one stack going to different things. Whereas Jack, he gets to do 3 different things. So basically, Jack is running around doing fast things, whereas the giant is stamping around doing big things and
trying to whack him with a club of a big movement.
Basically, so that is why I thought this was thematic.
Yeah,
we like you're saying, they play asymmetrically, but I think it's very good with the theme.
Yeah, I think the actual options open to you are very, very fitting with that idea of the giant basically battling the little thief.
Yeah.
The sneaky little thief.
Yeah,
As you can tell, I was the giant when we played.
Yeah.
And Richard won.
Yeah, I've got a gold, a goose, and a harp now.
Your mother was very proud of you.
Mm.
But this was quite a fun little game. I think once we started playing, we knew what we were doing very quickly. We knew what our options were very quickly, and then it played very quickly as well. But I didn't have to spend ages trying to think about what I was going to do on my turn, and neither did you. It was quite intuitive in knowing what we were going to do, and it felt like there was always options.
Yeah, you had plenty to decide between, didn't you?
Yeah.
And like, I was a bit surprised by how quickly it was over. I did think if we played it again and you were the giant or I was the giant, you didn't do any discarding, did you?
No, I basically, when we played, I pretty much stuck to... I was planning to do a discard, but then the game ended. But I was spending a lot of my time doing either the individual moving of 2 cards or moving the stack of 4 from one stack to another stack.
Yeah, you moved the Fee-Fi foes really well, but if you had done some discarding earlier on, I think I would have found it difficult in the later game.
Yeah.
Because I would be really trying to get cards with some numbers. If you discarded all the low numbers or something, or beanstalks, then I'd be able to start really high.
I think one of the things about this game is that the early round really favours Jack.
Yeah, because you can just pick
there's so
any
many
old
options.
beanstalk card and put them down. Yeah.
The later game, that balance of power swings more towards the giant because as Jack's options for building the beanstalks become smaller, that discard option becomes really powerful.
Yeah.
And it's then easier with less cards in there to get the FIFO Fun cards into the right order, because obviously Jack can't do anything. Well, he can move those cards, but he can't discard those cards or take those cards out of the stack. So they're always there for the giant to use. And in a likewise manner, I can move the treasure cards around, but I can't draw those out. But I can use the treasure cards to block some of your options of the beanstalks. So there is quite a few different
make me ways to move, can't you? Yeah.
And vice versa, you can do that with me. So there's quite a lot of options there to play aggressively or defensively.
Yeah, I thought I was going to have to block you a lot more. I was on the way to starting doing blocking moves for your FIFA Fun cards, but then I realised that I could actually finish off the building beanstalk.
I did make a few moves to block you getting certain beanstalk cards earlier on in the game, but then stopped doing that and started focusing more on like mass movements of the stacks of cards to get to my FIFA Fun cards, and there I wasn't playing defensively enough. So there is definitely a mix you have to play of this with aggressive and defensive, and I like that in a game. And I say that the fact that there are always those options there. So this is a game that I really enjoyed 2-player as a very fast moving game.
It's only 2-player, isn't it?
It is only 2-player.
It's a fairy tale that has 2 characters.
Yeah.
So.
And it's not the sort of game where you would expand it with house rules to add more players. This is an out and out 2-player game that it's got some lovely artwork, very easy to understand. I would recommend this as a nice filler game.
Yeah,
when you're having a coffee with somebody, you just sit down and get it out and play it.
Yeah.
It doesn't take up much space, so you could easily play this at the pub.
You could do, yeah. You do need a bit of space for it, but not too much. It's not as much as that Universum one that we did, Multi-Universum. Definitely not as much as Tiny Epic Western, which takes half your life to play that. But we've been doing a few filler games lately. It's not really something that I would... Well, I think it's because we've been basically travelling more into... And we have been in like pubs and different places where these little filler games are just right, isn't it? Because like when we're here, we might as well get out Descent or something. It's like... But
Meeples on tour. We
Meeples
bring
on
out
tour.
we bring out the small filler games and sometimes we've only got time to grab a coffee somewhere, haven't we? So we can play some of these. And this game is ideal for that sort of travel situation because you don't need many players, because it doesn't take up much space, and because it's fast. You can stop off on your travels somewhere at a pub for a bite to eat and get this out and have a quick play before you get back in the car.
I'm always surprised by how much I enjoy these games once we play them. I never really feel like them so much, but then I always tend to think, oh, that's actually quite good when we play. And that's another one where I thought that.
So you'd recommend this as well?
Yeah, as a filler game. Yeah.
So there we are. Meeples on tour. Bring the fee, bring the fi, the foe, but maybe leave the fun.
Yeah.
Nobody likes the fun.
And we have no choice but to take the blood of an Englishman.
So on this episode of the Quest Report, Richard and I are going to be talking about a little game called Robin, which was designed by Frederic Moyersoen, the same designer who behind Saboteur, a very popular party card game. And this is released via Flatline Games. So in Robin, the idea is it's a kind of a card collection game, isn't it? Where you are trying to get a number of cards with the same symbol. Now you need 7 cards to win of that symbol to win the game. The way you do that is you start off with a few cards. I think it's 3 or 4, and then
they're the slippiest cards in the world.
They are the slippiest cards in the world because these cards are plastic.
I put them in 2 little piles because the one pile it just goes everywhere. Yeah. But they look like they'll last well, don't they?
They seem like they're constantly trying to escape from your hands.
Yeah, they will just go everywhere.
They're very easy to shuffle though.
Yeah, they basically shuffle themselves.
Yeah. I mean, literally, if you put them on the side for 5 minutes, you'll come back and they'll have shuffled themselves.
Yeah.
Right off the table. So, yes, in this game, you have a little board, which will have different slots on them. Now, at one side, you've got Sherwood Forest, and at the other side, you've got Nottingham Castle.
Yeah, so it's like how far away from civilization you are at the time, isn't it?
And how close to danger as well.
There's basically more to steal there, but here you've got less you have to give up, like in taxes.
Yeah. So at the And it's also very much a push your luck system, isn't it? Because
Yeah.
at the closer to the castle, you've got more mission cards that you can draw. Which now the mission cards is 6 types of mission cards, and they're the symbols that you're trying to collect to make a
Right.
full set. But the more of those that you get, the more you then have to put into what's called the contribution stack.
Contribution.
Yeah.
Taxed.
Whereas the closer you are to Sherwood Forest, the less cards you draw, but then you're able to, instead of putting cards in the contribution stack, you're able to draw cards from the contribution
Yeah,
stack,
you
aren't
can
you?
steal.
Which means that it's very good because then you can choose a card.
Yeah, actually, no, you don't steal. When you're over here, putting them in the contribution thing is like... So you get to get a load of stuff there, and then you put that in the contribution. It's like you're giving to the poor.
Yeah,
that's
you're
what I
stealing
liked
from
about
the rich
it.
and giving to
Yeah,
the poor.
so this is like stealing from the rich, and that is like giving to the poor. But when you're back here, you're not doing any stealing, but you are getting cards
When
that
you're
have been
at
given to the
Sherwood
poor.
Forest, yeah.
So it's like you're poor when you're over here, and
Yeah.
you get the benefit from the stealing.
Because you're one of the poor people in Sherwood Forest that Robin's helping, and when you're close to the castle, you're then one of the merry men that is stealing from the rich to give to the poor.
Yeah,
So
I
it's
think
got-
you're pretty merry wherever you are.
Yeah. Well, it depends how much you drink.
Yeah.
It's quite a nice little system that you've got your little meeple, which will move to represent you, that moves
Oh
up
yeah,
and down.
it's Meeples.
And with the cards, the mission stats that you get, on your turn, you'll do 3 things, won't you? You'll draw however many cards from the mission stack that you're required to draw,
Yeah.
give as many cards as you're required to give to the contribution stack, and then you've got a choice. There are certain special action cards which you can play that might let you exchange meeples on the board,
Yeah.
swap hands with another player, steal a card from another player, peek at another player's hand. There's various different things. Some of the special action cards are passive because they just count as 2 of the symbols that you need for a set instead of 1. So you can either play one of these special action cards, or you can play or put down for trade rather a card. Now you put down a card for trade face up, and then everyone else that's playing will, if they decide they want to trade with you, put a card face down, and so when you can see who's trading, everyone then turns those cards over simultaneously face up, so that you can see, right, this is what I'm offering. So it's kind of like you're offering blindly, not knowing what the other players are offering for trade.
Yeah.
And then the player whose turn it is, the active player, will choose one of those cards to trade with.
It has to do what's on it.
Yeah, because on each of these cards that you'll be trading, it's got sets of arrows. Now, you might have like one black arrow pointing backwards towards the forest, and a couple of white arrows pointing forwards towards the castle. Now, you would have to then do all of those. Now, if it's those 3 sets, that means you've got to move 3 different meeples
Yeah.
to move in line with those directions.
If the arrows are really close together, then it's one meeple
moving 2
twice.
spaces, yeah. And the person that you traded with, so not the active player, will make those moves first, and then the active player will make the moves on his card.
Yeah, so basically the one that you put down, if they take that, that still gets used first.
Yeah.
So yeah, you basically decide what you want to happen.
And it's interesting, isn't it? Because if you're the active player and you've got multiple choices, then you can choose who to trade with. If only one person trades, then you have to make that trade. So that's not always a good thing for you.
No.
But as well as the symbols on the cards, which you will use to make your set of 7, there's also like a little token on top of the various spaces that your meeple can be on, the various locations. Now that will count as one of those symbols for your hand if you finish your turn on that space. So it's a very simple little game to learn,
It is. Yeah.
very simple little game to play, and it can play very fast as well, as we found out. when
We
it.
played with our friend Tim, and he just
And
suddenly
so,
won.
yeah,
Well, yeah, Sol was there as well, but Tim won.
yeah,
Like, lightning fast. So
Yeah.
he just collected 7 of these blue ones, hasn't he? 7 of the blue symbol.
yeah. Which I think was that was the sending messages missions or something like that. But yeah, he won that very quickly. So there is quite a strong random element in this, isn't there? What's your thoughts on this game, Richard?
Well, I like the fact that when you move the meeples, there's nothing on the cards to say which meeple it has to be.
Yeah.
So basically, it's not us moving up and down. We're just all playing cards that move the meeples. So basically, you're like in the tides. You don't know where you're going to end up. There are symbols that are put on each place, aren't they, which count towards your total. So it does make a difference where you are. Yeah, I was glad that it worked out being so fast as it was, because you do want a little game like this to be fast. We were talking about Biblios before, weren't we? And that seems to be always the same length, like whatever happens. Whereas this one, I don't know what it would be like if you played a really long game of it, but the short game was... I don't think it ever could last very long, because I think somebody would get 7 in not too long. Because you don't have to give up cards you don't want to, do you? You can choose which ones to take. So if you're going for a certain one, basically you just try and do it faster than the others.
I can't see a game of this lasting more than 30 minutes. 20 minutes to 25 minutes should be fine for this game.
Yeah, and thematically it works well. That's what I think.
It does
There are
work
two
well.
things about it.
I think it's got that thematic feel, as you say. And I think it's got a nice fast game. If this was more than 30 minutes, I really don't think I'd ever bring it to the table, because I think doing what we're doing in this game for a short time is fine and it's fun. If it was a longer game, I think you'd start to feel bogged down and want to do something else.
Yeah.
So it's the right length. The components are quite nice. The card, I like the little, again, like with Biblios, a little box that opens like a book with the magnetic strip on the
I
side.
know this one doesn't look like anything, but it's sort of a nice little box for a little game, isn't it?
Yeah. As I say, it was originally designed for a company, and it was to do with social welfare. It was then it was then rethemed to be a Robin Hood theme, and
it used to be conservatives in the welfare
Yeah.
state.
And I do think the theme of it works well with the way the game is played.
Well, if it's called Robin Hood, then you want something very fundamental about the game to be about that theme.
Taking of one thing and the giving of another.
About stealing, trying not to get caught, that kind of stuff. And you don't want it to just be a random card game with a Robin Hood theme plastered on the front. And this does feel like, very fundamentally in the mechanics, it is a Robin Hood game. So
I don't think that this is a game that's going to, rock anybody's world in the sense that they're going to buy it and they're going to go, oh wow, this game is amazing. But I do think that when you play this, you will go, it's fun. It's a fun 20 minutes, isn't it?
Yeah, you go,
And you go, now I've got to pick up those cards from the floor that have just flown out of my head.
Yeah.
But, so I would say, as a light filler game, as a quick game, this is fun. And I think this would work brilliantly with children.
Yeah, if they can hold on to the cards.
Well,
it might be hard to teach.
My kids' fingers are always a bit sticky, so that's probably going to be fine.
Actually, these cards might... Yeah, let them play it.
It's white clean if you play with kids.
Actually, yeah. Yeah, you can wipe these clean.
So my kids, personally, I think would really enjoy this as they get a little bit older. But yeah, especially for children, this will be a good filler game. But I think as a general break between other games, this is a fun little filler. So that's Robin by Frederic Moyersoen.
Robin.
Stay meddlesome and merry.
I don't know who you are, but we're the Meddlesome Meeples. Time for the music news about bands with skills. A very particular set of skills.
Hello, welcome to the Bard's Corner. We have a lot to go through this week.
Right, so starting off with a quick reminder of some of the releases that we've been able to look forward to for July. Mr. Big's album Defying Gravity is out right now. Ten's 13th studio album Gothica is out right now as well. That is an absolutely superb album. The album California by the River Dogs. All 41's album World's Best Hope. There's a 3 CD box set that was released on the 7th of July as well by Blind Guardian. That was entitled Live Beyond the Spheres. That was a 3 CD set, so that was pretty impressive as well. On the 14th of this month of July, Edguy are releasing an album called Monuments, which is to commemorate their 25th anniversary. Now that's a double CD DVD combination. On the CDs there's 22 sort of best of tracks. There's also, as well as that, 5 brand new songs and 1 previously unreleased track. So that's 28 songs altogether. The DVD that comes with it, it's a complete concert from the Hellfire Club tour that was recorded live in Sao Paulo. And as well as that, it's also got their music DVDs. So that's a really, really impressive collection. Been listening to some of that. If you manage to get the limited edition of of monuments, then it also comes with a 160-page book, which documents the long history of the band. Other albums to look forward to is Warner Drive, Till the Wheels Fall Off. We spoke about that previously. And don't forget, on the 23rd of June, the Angel Wings album The Edge of Innocence was released as well. So that was a really good CD and one of the strongest contenders for our new band of the year.
I was going to say, there's a lot of older bands there, isn't there?
There has been a lot of reissues, a lot of bands that have come back. We spoke about that on our last Bard's Corner as well, which was sort of a blast of the past with new albums from Saxons and returns from Lionheart and Da Vinci. So there's been a lot of older bands making a return, which is absolutely great for the scene. As well as that, we just want to talk about some of the tour dates coming up. Now, Tyketto have announced a 7-day tour in the UK in November.
Go on, do it in one go, one breath.
They're going to be playing at Hard Rock, Hull, Sheffield, Manchester, Nuneaton, Troon, Edinburgh and Newcastle. That's going to be between the 10th to the 26th of November. Night Ranger are also going to be playing at Hard Rock, Hull on the 9th of March next year, but on the 11th of March they're going to be going over to London's Shepherd Bush Empire, where they're going to be doing a joint headline gig with Skid Row. Cool. As well as that, if you go onto our paradiserock.co.uk website and check out the tour section, there's some gigs for the end of July for the Graham Bonnet Band, Vega, FM and the Dirty Thrills. So be sure to check those out.
Summer's a good time for music.
It's always a good time for rap music, isn't it? Now, the 3 albums we wanted to talk to you about in a little bit more depth today. The first one was The Raven Ride by Empire via Pride and Joy Records. This one was originally released through Metal Heaven back in 2006. It was the 3rd album by Empire and it's the 3rd reissue. This is Tony Martin from Black Sabbath on vocals, Neil Murray on bass from Whitesnake, Brian May Bland, Black Sabbath, Rolf Monks on guitar. He's the main guy behind the band. He's currently with Crematory. He's played with Razorback and Majesty. Is a phenomenal guitarist. And Andre Hilgers on drums.
Super band.
Yeah, Andre Hilgers was the drummer with Rage and with Axis. If you remember?
Yep.
We saw them.
No, you just saw them.
Were you not with me for the Axis concert?
Well, I'm pretty sure I just had a baby.
Oh, yeah.
Duh, you were involved a little bit there.
Yeah, I'll take some credit for that.
We couldn't get a babysitter because he wouldn't stop crying.
So, going back to the Raven Ride and less from my personal problems, the Raven Ride
I'm not sore about it at all.
It's got some really good songs on the Raven Ride. The actual album title track itself, The Raven Ride, beautifully heavy song. It's got really good rhythm to it, as does one of my other favourite songs on the album called Breathe. My favourite song on that album is a song called I Can't Trust Myself, which has got a really catchy chorus, really catchy hook.
It speaks to you.
Rolf Monks does some incredible guitaring on that album. I'd say if you like metal music, if you like heavy metal at all, then definitely go check it out. As I say, Rolf Monks is a brilliant guitarist. It's an album with a fantastic group of musicians playing. There are some songs on there I wasn't too crazy about, so it's got a 7.5 from me, but be sure to check that one out. That's out on the 18th of August via Pride and Joy Records. The second album we wanted to talk to you about today is the self-titled debut album from a band called Kryptonite. They are a new band, but the members have all been with other bands. So the lead singer is Jake Samuels, who was the lead singer of the Poodles. The bassist, Pontus Egberg, he played with both the Poodles and with Treat. Robin Back, the drummer, he used to play with the Clips.
Cool. And
Mike Pallis, the guitarist, he was the lead singer and songwriter of a band called Pallis, his own band. They've got Alessandro Del Vecchio, who's the producer for this album. He also plays keyboards. So, very good lineup. This album, all the way through, is absolutely fantastic. It's one of the best albums I've listened to this year. I'll say right out, it's getting a 9.5. I've
Again with the 0.5.
9.5.
Wait, that's a thing now. 0.5. You didn't use to.
We always get a 0.5 somewhere. It's difficult to pick out the real highlights from the album, but I'll just go through a few. This Is the Moment, Chasing Fire, Keep the Dream Alive, Fallen Angels, and Knowing Both of Us, and Get Out Be Gone. They were my favourite songs on the album. But to be honest, the whole album, it's 11 tracks, and I listened to the entire thing probably 4 or 5 times back to back. It's just a really good, energetic rock album. If you like Heat, if you like Eclipse, if you like the Poodles, if you like melodic rock at all, this is an album you absolutely have to check out. It's the 3rd nominee for Paradise Rock Album of the Year so far. As I say, there are a couple of not slow songs, but more power ballady songs, which is Fallen Angels and Knowing Both of Us. But the rest of the album is just really fast-paced tempo, some incredibly catchy songs on there. So that's out on the 4th of August. Make sure you check that out. That's Kryptonite through Frontiers Music SRL. The 3rd album we've got to talk about today is Quiet Riot's Road Rage. Now that's out on the 4th of August. The lead singer now is James Durbin. He was on American Idol. I think he finished 4th or something like that. I don't follow it.
I didn't watch it.
I didn't have high hopes for this because I find that singers that migrate from those kind of talent shows or go on those sort of talent shows and then go into rock bands doesn't generally work out well, with the exception of Nathan James, who's absolutely fantastic. But it came out a lot better than I expected. There was a couple of decent songs on the album: Wasted, Freak Flag, and Still Wild, which had quite a good rhythm. So as I say, the album was better than I expected, but still fell a little flat for me. I'm giving this one a 6.5 out of 10. James Durbin sang a lot better than I expected, but as I say, overall this album for me just didn't hit the mark. But I do think that if you're a fan of Quiet Riot, you will be glad to get hold of this album. So if you'd like to find out any more about these tour dates or the album releases, please be sure to check out paradiserock.co.uk. Thank you.
Bye.
Lock your doors, bar your windows, and get a spare change of pants at the ready. It's time for something scary now.
Welcome to Tiny Meeples Big Talk, and this time we are going to talk about aliens. This is terrifying one here, who is a bobblehead. Even as a bobblehead, they're pretty scary, aren't they, actually? But
this is a little xenomorph we have in our midst.
What we're actually going to talk about is the fact that, well, this guy's sitting on an egg, isn't he? So, yeah, as you know, aliens appear when somebody has been got by a facehugger.
Yeah.
And then the alien bursts out of that person's chest a bit later at dinner. So, we are going to think about what would be the most terrifying host for a facehugger. Yeah. And the reason for it is because it takes on a bit of your DNA, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So the alien that bursts out is a little bit similar to the creature.
I thought it'd be good just first to explain how that process works.
Okay. Because it makes so much sense.
It does make so much sense. When that facehugger gets you, it doesn't deposit an egg or anything. What it does is it deposits basically a set of tumours.
Yeah.
Or a tumour. And that tumour, that cancer, will then bring about genetic restructuring of the person's cells. So essentially they are building the Chestburster from the host's own biological material. That's why it takes on the traits of the host.
I thought the biomass would have to come from somewhere, wouldn't it?
So first off, the facehugger would dose its victim with a toxin that would render them unconscious.
That's why Kane couldn't remember anything.
Yeah. Then it launches a chemical attack that suppresses the victim's immune system to prevent the host, attacking the embryonic chestburster.
That's standard for pregnancy, isn't it?
Then it inserts its, I think it's called the proboscis or something, whatever it is. It inserts basically a tube into the victim's throat, and it launches these cancers into the esophagus. Now, facehuggers can't do that to something smaller than a cat. I would probably say they couldn't do it to something as small as a cat.
Why? Because you don't want to do it to Brody or Jonesy?
Well, I wouldn't want it to do it to Brody, but I was thinking they left Jonesy alone in Aliens, didn't they? So maybe that was because the facehuggers couldn't implant something.
Actually,
into
yeah,
him 'cause it was too small.
It did leave Jonesy alone. I never really thought of that. I just thought Jonesy had been like lucky.
Well, I thought maybe Jonesy was just that tough that none of the facehuggers would go near him. But it would make sense that because of his size. On the other hand, they can implant with things larger than humans, up to like oxen type sizes.
Yeah, because in Alien 3 theatrical version, it's a dog that it bursts out of, isn't it? But in the director's cut, it's an ox.
Yeah, and these things are quite tough. I mean, it's non-canon, but for example, there was an Aliens Vampirella crossover, and in that, a facehugger was caught by Vampirella in midair, but it was still able to overpower.
Yeah.
So, and with not having any kind of leverage, I would say that says that the facehuggers are a lot stronger than we probably give them credit for.
People managed to pull them off Ripley, and that looked very difficult. When it was trying to attack her, and those Marines pulled it off. So, yeah.
So I would say they are quite strong, but they're not insurmountable.
They're about as strong as a spider that big you'd expect it to be. I think.
Relative strength, probably. Yeah, that's probably a fair description. So, who would make, therefore, bearing in mind that it would take on the traits of the host, the best or the most terrifying hosts?
Me, because then it would burst out my chest. That's the first thing I thought of.
Yeah?
But I know what you were going for. So I did think of people like the Hulk, because, like, can you imagine one of these, but you couldn't get angry. Otherwise it would turn green and get even bigger. They seem pretty angry all the time, though, so I don't know if that's
I mean, you haven't seen my list, because I did write a couple of... not a big list, keeping it short, but I did write a couple of names down here that I thought would be particularly terrifying. The top of the list, and the only one on my list that I am really dubious about, the viability of it.
Viability.
was the Hulk. Now, the reason I say I'm not sure about the viability of the Hulk has regenerative powers. He can heal himself.
Yeah.
So, would he be able to heal the tumours? Now, that's one question. The other thing is...
Well, if he didn't get tumours from all that gamma rays, then...
Well, he is susceptible to gamma radiation. It's one of his weaknesses, radiation.
Okay, then.
But I was just thinking, the Hulk can be affected by toxic substances.
Mm-hmm.
He can be gassed. So, that ability to... render him unconscious might work, especially if they attacked him as Bruce Banner and not as the Hulk.
I think I imagined more the facehugger getting Banner before he managed to get angry.
Before he turned into
he'd be pretty angry with one jumping at him, but I think once it's rendered him unconscious, it'd be a bit
This is
difficult.
what I was kind of thinking. So you'd get that, you'd get unconscious. Now the question here is, would this toxin that they use to suppress the host immune system, would it be able to suppress the Hulk's healing power? Now,
Nah.
Let's assume, just for the sake
dreaming, man.
Yeah. But let's assume. I mean, that's the big question there. But let's assume, for the sake of argument, that it could.
Okay.
Imagine an alien that got bigger, stronger, and greener the more it got angry.
That's what I was thinking. And you don't really like to shoot aliens because of the acid blood, if you're near it. But bullets tend to bounce off the Hulk anyway, so they'd be even tougher. Really.
And I was thinking, considering the Hulk's ability to withstand enormous concussive blasts and projectiles,
Molyneux.
You couldn't take off and nuke him from orbit.
No, yeah, he'd like that.
That's just playing right into his hands, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, this I think is probably in many ways one of the more terrifying concepts. If you had basically a green raged gamma radiating xenomorph, that would be pretty terrifying to deal with.
So if you think that the Hulk's regenerating ability would make him a little bit more difficult for it to work on, would that go for Wolverine as well?
I would think it would be the same for Wolverine, yes, but because Wolverine was the other one I thought of, but I thought, well, to be honest, between a combination of aliens, Wolverine and alien Hulk would be the scarier.
And we're going for the scariest, aren't we?
Because I think Wolverine's abilities, with his healing power, you'd get that if he was taken from the Hulk. The other thing I thought of was Deadpool. Because then you just have a wisecracking alien, and that just wouldn't be scary at all.
Yeah, the alien with the mouth and the little mouth, and both wisecracking.
Yeah. So, but if he was the Hulk, he'd have that healing regenerator. You'd get stronger constantly the longer he was fighting.
And
it would just be totally terrifying.
That would be, yeah.
Whereas, I say, with Wolverine, his other non-healing capabilities, so his enhanced sensors, his agility, well, the alien's got all that pretty much anyway.
Yeah, I was thinking that, because the thing about Wolverine is the claws, but that's just different from a human, whereas he's got claws.
He's got claws,
and
pretty deadly claws.
They're a bit different, but obviously it wouldn't be born with the adamantium skeleton, because it was put on him afterwards. Claw. Yeah, there would be bone claws, so an alien with adamantium would be different, but you'd need Stryker to do that to the alien afterwards.
So can you imagine how difficult it would be to put adamantium into a creature with acid blood?
Yeah, actually. Yeah. Adamantium seems pretty tough though, so I wonder if they could do it. It's meant to be the perfect organism. I could make it more perfect.
Well, I'd like to think that there are scientists out there working on that right now.
Well, it's necessary.
Yeah. So anyway, Hulk was my first thought, and it's the only one that I had doubts about the viability of, but I think overall the odds are that it could work.
So the rest of your list is really sensible.
It is very sensible.
Okay, let's hear another one then.
Let's hear another one. Darth Vader.
So
imagine a Sith xenomorph.
Yeah, because it would be a Sith rather than a Jedi.
Darth Xenomorphus.
I mean, I think it would just get the midichlorians from him, wouldn't it, or whatever.
This is basically what I was thinking, that he could take over, it could implant in Vader, and it would come out, and it would be able to use the Force. Now imagine a lightsaber, Force-wielding xenomorph coming at you in the bowels of a ship that's malfunctioned in space.
You're trying to run away from it down a corridor, and then it's just like, it just lifts you off the floor and that draws you towards it. Yeah, that would be pretty terrifying.
Shooting tons of bullets at it, and it just stops them all in midair, like Neo.
Yeah, like Neo, yeah, even though this, yeah.
Using the power of the Force.
Yeah, that would be, that would be scary. The thing about this,
it could hold you in place while a chestburster got you.
Yeah, it could too, yeah. Yeah, because I was just thinking, xenomorphs are so scary anyway. There's not, I mean, there's certain hosts that would be really terrifying for it, but it's hard to get more terrifying than these things anyways.
And but as I say, a Sith xenomorph definitely is more terrifying than a normal xenomorph.
Yeah.
And I was thinking, there are difficulties here. Now, first of all, it's going to be very difficult to catch Vader unawares.
He wears a mask.
And he wears a mask. Now, the facehuggers can shoot acid that will dissipate the mask or a helmet. We've seen that in the Aliens franchise.
I don't think they plan ahead, though.
Well, no, I don't think. Well, they seem to pick their times when they attack very well.
A little bit.
So
yeah.
I think maybe an alien could dissolve Vader's mask, but I think because of his sense of awareness, it wouldn't go for his mouth.
No.
Because, and I've researched this, and it seems that the science agrees with me.
Does it?
It does. You'll be happy to know that a xenomorph could just as easily implant, rather than in your esophagus, in your anal regions. So we could have a butt burster instead of a chest burster.
I saw a question about that online when I was just researching what the aliens actually do, but I didn't click on it. I just thought I'd be better than that.
But I'm just saying, Darth Vader butt burster. It is possible, and because it's the same genetic material.
That makes it worse.
It would make it somewhat grosser, as well as being more terrifying.
Like Vader's just walking around and like, are you alright, Vader? Yeah, fine. Like, no wonder he's been breathing.
Oh, I've been hurt. I've been hurt in the dark side.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So
Xenomorph violated the Dark Lord of the Sith. So yeah. So this could be an option rather than a frontal attack on Vader because of his mask and because of his.
Well, it could get anyone like that. Like, it could get the Emperor.
So there was another one I was thinking of, Vader.
I just thought of, well, one of the previous ones I thought of, like, not Cthulhu because he's too massive. We always like to bring it around to Cthulhu, but like one of the deep ones or something like that. Was something from the Lovecraft universe, because
anything from the Lovecraft universe would make it more terrifying.
These are so scary, but these are like a bioweapon type thing. But if it was combined with a creature like from beyond, like one of the old ones or one of the spawn of the old ones, then it would just be like squared how terrifying it was and how insane it would make you.
I think it would probably be many of the old ones would be too big, but something like a Night Gaunt or a Deep One or any of those kind of creatures.
The spawn of the goat, that kind
yeah,
of thing.
any of those kind of creatures would be... You know, it would possibly be even more scarier than a Lovecraftian monster.
What?
Lovecraft. An alien that wrote horrific novels of mind-inducing terror.
That thing just got...
Imagine that, like that protruding mouth coming out with a little pen and just writing tales of man's insignificance in the cosmic universe. That is pretty terrifying.
Yeah, it's like I know you haven't seen it, but one of the recent Doctor Who's where the Vatican were keeping this bit of paper that if you read it, it makes you kill yourself. Imagine this guy could write something like that. Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
But yeah, that would be pretty scary. Another one I thought of was the Jem'Hadar.
Yes.
From the universe of Star Trek. If you're not familiar with them, the Jem'Hadar appeared in Star Trek Deep Space Nine. They're the foot soldiers of the Dominion.
I think our audience is probably...
You probably know who the Jem'Hadar are.
Addicted to Catch Us Out White. So basically this guy would be addicted anyway. They are born addicted.
So you'd have like a drug-addicted, angry alien who can turn invisible.
And will die for the founders, unquestioningly.
Yeah.
Yeah,
like the drones for the Queen. It's got a nice flow there. But as I say, I just think
invisibility would be pretty scary.
A xenomorph that can disappear when you're shooting at it and just appear behind you. I mean, they kind of do that anyway because they're great at sneaking around.
Yeah, but it'd be even better if they can actually shroud.
Yeah, that would be pretty scary.
Well, from the Star Trek universe, the other one I was thinking of, the one that came to mind to me was the Herodian, just because they're so massive and tough and obsessed with hunting. It's like they seem a bit more pragmatic.
Like the Herodian are like the predators.
Yeah,
as opposed
a little bit
of the Alien Predator series. Very much in that vein.
But it's like the Herodian just can't stop. Like even when they have captured the whole of Voyager, like they create the holodeck so they can carry on hunting constantly. And if an alien was to capture you and be wanting to do that kind of scenario, that would be horrible.
Can you imagine like a Chestburster Herodian and a Chestburster Jem'Hadar squaring off?
Yeah.
That would be pretty cool.
Fighting on a derelict ship.
Because after I thought of the Jem'Hadar, I thought, would there be any more races that would be more scary than a Jem'Hadar xenomorph? And I thought, well, a Klingon xenomorph would be cool, but that would just be one that wanted to battle everything.
Yeah.
Wouldn't be particularly any more scary.
It would just stand toe to toe with you, wouldn't it? Really?
I thought maybe a Xenoborg or a Xeno-Q.
I was thinking about the Xenoborg, but I thought it's more they would assimilate the xenomorph after it bursts out of somebody else.
An it's an assimilated xenomorph.
That would be pretty terrible.
Be pretty terrifying.
Yeah. I don't think they could get one on Q. No,
I did think, imagine that. Yeah, realistically, it just couldn't happen. I just suddenly thought, a Q with xenomorph-like tendencies.
Unlimited abilities over space-time. Yeah.
I mean, a xenomorph with unlimited abilities over space-time would be terrifying, but it just could never happen because a Q would never allow it to happen.
Let's keep it realistic.
Although, he did get punched by Cisco, let us not forget that.
Yes.
And then he never had any more problems with Q. But now we're going off topic. Let's reel it in. So
a Cisco xenomorph.
A Cisco xenomorph would be scary.
I was thinking about a lot of the captains actually. Just imagine.
Well, I did think about maybe a Xeno Kirk, but a Xeno Kirk would just want to have his shirt ripped all the time and get into weird fights with a Gorn.
Yeah, chasing alien babes. Basically, that does it anyway.
Yeah, and a Xeno Janeway would just have crew lost in the Delta Quadrant. So
yeah, drink lots of coffee, go on a vendetta. Yeah.
But a Xeno Jem'Hadar would be terrifying, I think.
Yeah,
definitely. Only other one that I thought of, similar in vein to the Hawk, would be a Xeno Superman.
Yeah.
Or a Xeno Aquaman that would come at you from underwater.
Again, the Aquaman
like a seaborne version of Xenomorphs.
If you were anywhere near the sea, then yeah. as far inland as we are, I don't need to worry.
But we've also already got deep ones to give us nightmares about going in the sea, haven't we? So
We have. That's why I stay here.
those were my thoughts on the most terrifying hosts.
Yeah, those are some pretty terrifying hosts. I was just thinking a bit outside the box on this one, really. I mean, I thought of a lot of similar ones to you about what would make a powerful one, but I was also just thinking about the Chestburster itself, like that kind of happening. One thing that immediately came to mind was the Queen, because then it would make an alien queen. And you know that's a lot worse than a normal xenomorph. But then I was just thinking, like, any kind of public figure, like, however bad a speech can be, if somebody suddenly, like, just starts screaming and a chest is going, that's got to be the worst speech in the world.
That would be a horrible way for Donald Trump to end a rant.
That's what I was thinking, like a Trump xenomorph bursts out during a speech and then just goes and makes friends with Putin and stuff.
Oh, a Putin xenomorph would be terrible. It would just be like a xenomorph going around conquering countries and posing on the back of horses.
Yeah, and get an amazing approval rating in his own country.
But again, off topic. So, reeling it in,
No, it's on topic. You asked what the most terrifying one would be, and they are them.
Yeah, that would be pretty scary.
Yeah.
I still think that my Darth xenomorph would be marginally more terrifying.
I didn't really think of that one, yeah, and that one would be scary. Basically, just a xenomorph that can use the Force would be, but would he inherit? No, obviously it's not in his genetics that he'd get the breathing problems. It'd be a perfectly healthy Darth Vader xenomorph come out.
Yeah.
But then it's straight into the lava. And then have to get revived.
So yeah, for me, that I think is definitely the top of the bill. Even scarier than a xenomorph Hulk, a xenomorph Jem'Hadar, a xenomorph Superman, and even scarier than, dare we say it, a Xeno Deadpool. They'll just be going around cracking jokes.
Yeah, Captain Xenomorph.
No, just Xenomorph.
Just Xenomorph, yeah.
So that's what we've been thinking of as the scariest.
Yeah.
The scariest host for a facehugger.
Please don't try thinking about it at home.
Especially before you go to sleep. That will give you terrifying nightmares.
Yeah.
And that's what Lovecraft's for.
It is. Yeah.
So let us know what you think. Please, we'd love to hear your thoughts on what would terrify you more than any of those. And even, can you think of something as scary as a xenomorph Aquaman?
Yeah, give us some more nightmares.
Yeah.
We don't have enough.
Tell us what you think.
Now it's time to talk about books with the Meddlesome Meeples.
Okay, welcome to Matt's literature exam, where he's going to talk about a book he's claimed to have read, which is, well, we've got this really nice hardback copy of the Complete Cthulhu Mythos Tales, which I was just having a flick through earlier, but there's a particular one in here that you're going to talk about, isn't there?
That's right.
Which one's that?
The Shadow Over Innsmouth.
Yes.
Now, the Shadow Over Innsmouth is interesting because out of all the various stories that H.P. Lovecraft wrote and published, the Shadow Over Innsmouth was the only one that was actually released as a book during Lovecraft's lifetime.
Oh, okay.
Only with a very small run, and there was something like 400 copies of it made, and I think 2 of them had that many typos and printing errors that they had to be destroyed, so that only left 200 of copies. It only left 200 copies in circulation, and actually H.P. Lovecraft himself never thought it was going to be published,
right?
Because he thought it was that down on that particular work, because he thought it had errors. He thought there was problems with the storyline, and also H.P. Lovecraft was known for his lack of confidence in his ability to write action. Right. That's what. Yeah, a lot of it is kind of description of something from a distance. It seems. That's what I often thought. So he doesn't very often get into any kind of like first person accounts of, well, this happened and then I did this. And no, they just tend to hear it from a beardy guy by the docks or something. Yeah, and in kind of vague descriptive terms, like the man struggled with such and such, rather than actually like a blow by blow account of something. This is got the only real action sequences that he's wrote in
Alright,
a
so
more
they are in
detailed
that.
context
Mhm.
in the Shadow Over Innsmouth. One of the other things that's quite unusual about the book, it doesn't actually mention the name of the narrator. Because if you're
Right.
familiar with Lovecraft's work, a lot of it is done through like letters and memoirs and
The
through
first person
narration.
a lot.
Yeah, and it's a narration. A narrator will go through the story and describe himself talking with other characters and interacting with various creatures and surroundings. And it's the same in this. It's the first person narrator, and it's kind of recounting events, almost like he's writing into a journal.
Right. Yeah.
To others. But the narrator himself nor his parents are named in the book.
He just says I.
Yeah. But we do know from H.P. Lovecraft's story notes from when he was writing the story that the character, the narrator, was going to be called Robert Olmsted.
Right. Yeah.
He also named his mother as well, but his father is still without name. It's a very interesting story about this traveller. He's a 20-year-old man. He's on a tour of New England and other locations, and he is basically going on a tour to see architecture. And he's in this town, and it's a real town in Massachusetts called Newburyport. And while he's there, he starts to try and plan his next route, which is going to take him to Arkham from Newburyport. But the train fare is quite pricey, and so he starts looking for a cheaper alternative.
Sounds like he's playing Pandemic.
Yeah. And one of the ticket sellers actually says to him, well, there's actually a bus that runs from Newburyport to Arkham via the town of Innsmouth.
Right.
But everyone that he speaks to about it is very, very negative about the town and its people. There's a real suspicion, and they start some almost supernatural tones, like there's something really dark and foreboding about this place and the people there. Nothing concrete. It's just that they know that everyone has this distrust and repulsion at not only of Innsmouth but the inhabitants of the town.
Is it something they've been going strange kind of more recently? Something like that.
Well, it had been going on for years, but it was kind of a long-held distrust, and
that was it.
He heard about like a plague that had happened, which had killed about half of the town's population. But he was the narrator, Robert Olmsted. He starts to think, well, if this town can arouse such animosity, such hostility in its neighbours, there must be something interesting about this town. So he does some research in the town before he decides to go there the next morning, and that research really sets off the tone for the rest of the story, because some of the things he finds out about it, and about like the jewellery, for example, some of the strange pieces that they've got. He then goes, and then when he starts to see these things in Innsmouth, they all start to connect with some of the local stories he's hearing from different individuals there.
So it's like a story within a story, because you get to hear everybody's account of what happened years ago.
Yeah, so there's a couple of characters he meets in Innsmouth who gives him some details about the town. One is a non-resident from Arkham, and another one is actually... One Zadok. One is Zadok Allen, who we know from one of our Lovecraft-inspired games, Mansions of Madness 2nd edition.
You often have
meet
to
him in
keep...
Innsmouth.
Yeah. And he keeps appearing in different places drunk, doesn't he? And you keep having to try and get him to tell more of the story.
So he has this encounter with Zadok, and he gets told things which he, quite frankly, just thinks is the ramblings of an old man.
Yeah.
But then, as night falls, he finds himself still in Arkham, and I don't want to say much more than that, because there's an incredible story there, very, very tense.
You find out what's been happening.
You find out what's been happening in Innsmouth through these stories of Zadok, and then through the narrator's own experiences.
Yeah.
Which you knew from the first verses of the book. He's starting to say that, this encounter which he's writing about then triggered government investigation and a massive governmental operation. So you kind of know early on that something's going to go down big.
Yeah.
And then the story of what happens to him in Innsmouth is brilliant. And then subsequently the aftermath and the way the book finishes is slightly spine-tingling.
Yeah. Yeah, they often kind of... they often will find out something towards the end, won't they, or something
Yeah.
like that in Lovecraft stories.
And I love the ending for this. Now, I've read a number of the other books, as you have as well, like the Call of
Yeah.
Cthulhu, and I really love the Call of Cthulhu. This one is more of a story than Call of Cthulhu.
Yeah,
It's
Call
got-
of Cthulhu, it had the main action in it happens in the past in the story, doesn't
Yeah.
it? He basically finds out what happened to his ship years ago, doesn't he?
Yeah.
So-
Whereas with the Shadow Over Innsmouth, the narrator is really caught up in the action himself, and he's talking about what what he did and what happened to him, as opposed to, as you say, the Call of Cthulhu, where a lot of it's like the narrator's being told by like the inspector, isn't he, of what what has happened to him in his investigations.
Yeah.
Here, the narrator's living through it himself, and the tension at times really builds up because of that. I really do like the character of the narrator, and
Whatever he is.
yeah, Robert Olmsted, and I do like as well some of the other characters like Zadok Allen and some of the other ones he meets on his adventure.
Yeah.
If you are familiar with the Lovecraft mythos, this story does fit straight into that, as opposed to some of Lovecraft's non-Cthulhu mythos stories.
Right.
It's a novella. It's not a full-length novel. It's something
A lot
like
of his was
50
novellas, wasn't it?
pages in it.
Yeah.
But it manages to tell quite a lot of information and quite a lot of story and action in those in that short story. It's also been used a number of times to make audiobooks and audio dramas.
Yeah, I think I might have listened to an audio drama of it or something. It's not.
There was one, probably my favourite of the renditions of it. It was an abridged version, so it's not the full story, but it's an abridged version, and it captures the feel of the book perfectly. And that
Right.
was a BBC edition, which was read by Richard Coyles.
Right.
Now, Richard Coyles, if you've watched like Going Postal, the adaptation of the Discworld novel, he plays
Maybe.
Moist von Lipwig.
Oh, okay. Right.
So he's like the main guy in that. His attempts at American accents aren't very good, but forget that, because I mean most of us in the UK, which is where we're from, wouldn't know the local accents from like Massachusetts anyway.
No, I
would
mean,
we?
hear plenty of American actors doing English accents that don't sound anything like anything we've heard here. So-
It kind of probably falls into that. If you're trying to place it as an American listener, you probably wouldn't really get it. But I thought his voice and the thematic music that went along with it just suited the book brilliantly.
Oh, good.
Now, H.P. Lovecraft himself died in 1937. He was 47 years old. Some of his own concerns really come through in this book. Some of them quite understandable, some of them quite negative in today's enlightened and liberal area. Yeah, well, for example, both of his parents died in a mental institution.
That's
His father was put into a mental institution when he was just a child. I think he was like 3 years old or something, and he died a few years later. And his mother, he was older at the time. He was a grown man, but she also ended up in the same institution as his father, and died there after, I think it was a failed complications to do with a gallbladder surgery or something like that. So, but she was in the mental institution when she died, and his own fear of going insane, which permeates his entire mythos,
It
really,
does, yeah.
comes through quite strongly in this with the
It comes through in all of them,
characters.
doesn't it?
Yeah,
but
very
I
much so.
I think in a way though, it's because psychology wasn't quite so well understood back then. I mean, back then they would have just called it going insane.
Well,
But it would
even
be
a few
more-
years ago,
be
people
more
would just called it
specific,
being
though.
a bit of a character.
Yeah, no, they would have a specific syndrome that people got from it or something. I mean, mostly the people just have PTSD from this, don't they? From seeing these monsters.
Or from reading it.
Yeah, from reading it as well. Yeah.
So, but that, as I say, comes through very strongly in this. Also, Lovecraft, bear in mind that the times, had quite strong feelings about interracial marriage, things like that, and some of that comes through.
You expect that in an old book.
Yeah, in this book as well, but not necessarily the way that you might think.
Right.
But both of those features are present in the story. But as I say, the real strong theme coming through this is that fear of descent into insanity. And it's just brilliantly written, very tense. There are some very ye old English words that are used as there are in all of his books, but I think anybody that's reading this will be able to, even if they weren't familiar with the terms used, would be able to know from context what those words mean. It's
only old American, isn't it? It's not like it's medieval.
Yeah. And personally, this is probably even more so than the Call of Cthulhu, my favourite of the Lovecraft tales.
Well, I think it would be a good one to start with, wouldn't it? If we're going to read some of them.
Yeah, because it's kind of a nice mild way of introducing you to the mythos as well.
And if you've played Mansions of Madness, then you'll recognise it.
Yeah, and you'll know some of the characters in there and the locations and everything. So if you're familiar with that mythos at all, but you haven't read this book, then you will really enjoy this book.
Our Lord and Master made us talk about this, so now we have done it.
Well, I thought we haven't spoken about Cthulhu for a while, have we? And we've certainly not spoken about any of the Cthulhu books, so
no.
It was about time.
You must read it.
And it's 80 years since he died, so it seemed fitting.
Okay.
There we are. I am recommending The Shadow Over Innsmouth by H.P. Lovecraft. It's a sci-fi horror, which I think you will very much enjoy.
Well, that was fun. Let's carry on with the show. The Meeples Alive!
So that was episode 11. Please be sure to check out our Instagram page, and we hope you enjoyed this episode. Please leave us some comments and let us know what you think.
Okay, bye!
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 Farewell, Quester, and thanks for joining us. If you wish to avoid the wrath of Greyskarn The Black, then subscribe to our show before you depart. Our fortress is located at meddlesomemeeples.com, or join our banners by rendezvousing with us at facebook.com/Meddlesome Meeples, instagram.com/the Meddlesome Meeples, or follow the flight of the mountain bluebird to @Meddlesome Meeples. Until next time, Quester, farewell, and keep thine axe sharp.